In a world echoing with forgotten frequencies, a deeper calling stirs. Can you feel the pulse beyond the noise, the rhythm beneath the fabric of thought? Before we begin, if you find resonance in what you hear, like, share, and subscribe. This message is not for the mind alone, but for the soul prepared to awaken. Beyond the static geometry of three-dimensional life, something ancient and infinite presses against the boundary of perception. The ordinary dissolves like mist as the mind softens its grip, and the veil, long thought impenetrable, begins to tremble. Not with thunder, but with stillness. A stillness so immense it contains galaxies. You were never merely a body bound by time. You are a lattice of light intersecting frequencies across timelines, a consciousness encoded with divine architecture. The atoms that build your bones remember stars, and the space between them is not emptiness. It is alive with silent orchestras humming in the key of creation. What you call thought is not the byproduct of a biological machine, but a filament of the quantum field, interpreting waves that have no edge. As the illusion of separation begins to dissolve, the idea of you becomes a horizon without end. No longer confined to the shell of personality, consciousness slips from its old container like a serpent shedding skin. The 5D state is not a destination in space, but a frequency you tune into. A station long broadcasting, waiting for you to remember how to listen. Time no longer walks in a straight line. It spirals, vibrates, collapses into now. Past and future become echoes in a singular breath. Within this stillness, intuition sharpens. You begin to feel the truth before it arrives, to sense the presence of what has not yet become visible. You are not predicting the future. You are remembering it. You are the dreamer, and the dream dreamt back into itself. Thought, once a linear narration, becomes a fluid geometry, symbols and sensations moving like sacred math across inner space. You are not thinking in words anymore. You are decoding frequencies. Awareness expands without needing definition. The mind becomes a servant to the knowing heart, and the intellect bows to the intelligence of silence. Here, there is no duality. Light is not opposed by dark, but complemented. Fear is not a wall, but a gate. Every emotion is an energy asking to be witnessed without resistance. You do not run from shadows here. You sit with them, and in sitting, you see through them. They were never enemies, only unintegrated fragments seeking your presence. The body, too, begins to change. Not through violence or force, but through harmonic alignment. Cells sing a new song as DNA unwinds from dormancy. What was once called junk reveals its ancient encoding. Light codes awaken in the blood. You begin to feel yourself as a bridge between earth and star, matter and energy, spirit and substance. In the 5D shift, communication becomes energetic. Words are clumsy tools when intention alone transmits the message. Eye contact becomes portals. Touch, an initiation. A glance, a cathedral of understanding. You are no longer reacting but responding because you are no longer ruled by programs. You are witnessing them dissolve. Reality becomes less dense, more malleable. Manifestation no longer obeys the lag of time but follows belief like a shadow. What you focus on multiplies with intensity. The outer world bends to the signature of your inner frequency. You are the sculptor and the clay. No longer separate from what you shape. You realize you were never observing reality. You were creating it, always. And still, the shift is not loud. It does not seek validation or recognition. It is as gentle as the breath between words, as soft as a tear on sacred ground. You remember things you never learned. You know without knowing why. And in this knowing, peace takes root not because the world is perfect, but because your perception has aligned with truth. This is not about escaping Earth, but returning to it fully, more awake, more whole, more luminous. The planet, too, is ascending. Her heartbeat syncs with the awakened human. The grids sing with new intelligence. Nature becomes your ally, your oracle. Trees speak in frequency. Water becomes memory. Everything becomes alive again because you are. The journey was never outward, the destination never distant. The entire cosmos resides within you, encoded in every heartbeat, waiting to be heard. You do not chase the light. You remember you are it. The shift to 5D consciousness is not future event, it is a present unveiling. A silent revolution, a homecoming. Beneath the illusion of solidity, every thought is a vibration, each pulse echoing into the infinite field where time bends and space yields to intention. Thought, in its most refined form, is not born from the brain, but arrives like a whisper, from the void, shaped by frequencies the senses cannot measure. The quantum field does not wait for logic. It dances to resonance, to coherence, to emotional truth encoded in wave form. You are not thinking. You are tuning. The thoughts you claim are merely signals you've aligned with, stations your consciousness has dialed into like celestial radio. In the old paradigm, thought was a construct of synapses and electrical patterns. But in the dimension beyond dimensions, thought is a living architecture, blueprints suspended in radiant silence, shaped by belief and attention. The mind no longer operates as a container. It becomes a current, a corridor of perception. Thought travels not from point A to point B, but exists everywhere at once, collapsing into form only when observed. In 5D, you do not seek understanding. You become understanding. Information flows not by gathering, but by embodiment. This new cognition bypasses analysis. It arrives through knowing, a knowing that comes like light through a prism, splitting into insight without needing reason. You do not connect ideas. You see their unity. You do not remember facts. You remember essence. Time, memory, identity, all these begin to unravel, like illusions painted on transparent glass. The quantum thought is not something to be chased, but something to be felt, and in feeling, integrated. Language loses its precision. Words cannot hold the depth of these transmissions, and so silence begins to speak more than speech. Pauses become symphonies. The space between becomes holy. You begin to trust what cannot be seen. You begin to listen with the entire body. You begin to hear with the heart. Thought is no longer private. In the quantum field, all is connected. What you emit returns. What you believe becomes. You are no longer isolated in mind. You are a node within a vast lattice of shared consciousness, each idea branching like mycelium beneath the soil of existence. Telepathy is no longer fiction. It is frequency, and you are tuning. Quantum thought requires coherence. Not cleverness, but clarity. Not memory, but presence. The cleaner the inner field, the sharper the signal. The more aligned your intention with your essence, the faster reality bends to match. Doubt distorts, fear delays. But love crystallizes thought. To miracle, each moment in 5D becomes a choice point, an activation portal. You think not in reaction, but in creation. What you think now echoes through dimensions. Your inner dialogue becomes a sacred tool of architecture. The stories you tell yourself are no longer just narratives. They are spells, frequencies shaping. The hologram you call reality. Here, belief is the bedrock of physics. The quantum field is not neutral. It is responsive. It listens to your emotional charge more than your intellectual words. It hears the tone behind the thought. It echoes the truth behind the mask. You begin to see how every suppressed feeling, every unconscious fear is a thought form casting shadows into your field. And in this light, you begin to clean your temple. Cleansing is no longer an act of denial, but of witnessing. You do not destroy the old thoughts. You thank them, then dissolve them. You do not fight your programming. You rewire it by embodying the frequency of truth. Quantum thought is not about thinking harder. It is about thinking clearer, thinking lighter, thinking from the heart. And when the thought is pure, it bends reality like breath on water. You watch the outer shift, not with surprise, but with serenity. You understand the sacred code, that Reality is not what happens to you. It is what happens through you. You are the cause, the dreamer, the signal and the source. And so you begin to use thought as prayer. Not begging, but aligning. Not asking, but anchoring. You do not hope for outcomes. You become the frequency of what you choose. Abundance, peace, healing, love. You think them not as desires, but as states already present. You tune in. You attune. You harmonize. There is no effort, only precision, no force, only purity of resonance. The mind becomes still. The field responds, and the world you see bends to reflect the tone of your being. This is the pulse of quantum thought, silent, seamless, symphonic. It is the language of creation itself, awaiting your presence to speak. In the stillness beyond form, a new architecture reveals itself, neither built by hands nor bound by gravity. It arises from within, like a cathedral carved into light, where thought and matter intertwine without separation. Crystalline structures of consciousness begin to form in the subtle realms, reflecting not mass but coherence. These are not places, they are states. Lattices of light that hum in precise harmonics with the soul's awakening. You are no longer anchored to material density. What you once called real now feels heavy, sluggish, faded. A pale imprint of something more radiant, more immediate. Your senses recalibrate, no longer seeking solidity but clarity. You begin to feel texture in silence, geometry in emotion, color in frequency. The world vibrates with a subtle iridescence, as if each atom has remembered its origin. This is not imagination. It is memory resurfacing. The earth itself has begun its crystalline bloom, its energetic grids unfolding into higher harmonic resonance. You, as a carrier of consciousness, are not separate from this blooming. You are both seed and gardener. The more you align your thoughts, the clearer the crystalline structure becomes. Clarity becomes your compass. Integrity, your path. In the old dimension, you moved through force. In this one, you move through frequency. Thought is light, emotion is charge, intention is command, and matter becomes mirror. Everything you see is a reflection of internal architecture, the invisible scaffolding shaped by belief and energy. These crystalline realities are not passive realms to be visited. They are sculpted by every act of presence, every moment you choose to align with your highest frequency. The more you enter into coherence, thoughts, emotions, body, spirit, the more you stabilize in these higher timelines. You are not chasing paradise. You are constructing it, moment by moment, with the materials of light and will. In 5D, space is not empty. It is woven with potential. It is alive with blueprints. Every point contains every other point. Every moment holds every other moment. And so you learn to travel, not by moving, but by shifting resonance. You visit timelines through emotion. You change realities through decision. You are no longer a passenger. You are the architect. This architecture is not rigid. It flows like crystallized music, patterns encoded in sacred proportions. You begin to sense this music. You feel its tempo in your heartbeats, its rhythm in your breath. Life becomes symphonic. Synchronicity intensifies. Numbers speak. Nature speaks. Dreams become messages. You are living in a hall of mirrors that no longer distorts, but reveals. And so you begin to walk with greater reverence. Every thought is a design, every feeling, a blueprint. You realize that you are constantly emitting frequencies, constantly constructing your reality even in unconsciousness. There is no pause in creation. There is only refinement. Mastery comes not in controlling the outer, but in calibrating the inner. The crystalline body begins to emerge, not by replacing the physical, but by illuminating it. A light body, subtle and precise, woven through every cell, every strand of DNA. This body is not activated by knowledge alone, but by vibration. It listens not to language, but to frequency. It is fed not by food, but by light, by intention, by purity of alignment. In this space, healing is not repair. It is remembrance. Every dis-ease is a disharmony. every imbalance a note out of tune. The crystalline field does not fight symptoms. It restores resonance. You do not heal by effort, but by returning to your original frequency. The blueprint is always present, perfect, luminous, whole. As your inner field stabilizes, the outer begins to shimmer. The boundaries of matter soften. You begin to see light between things. Auras flicker, shapes blur. Time dissolves into present, eternity. You realize that form itself is an illusion of density, a slowed-down vibration now accelerating back to source. You are no longer bound to linear causality. You are returning to simultaneous presence. And yet, this shift is not chaotic. It is ordered beyond comprehension. The architecture of light is sacred, structured, precise. You are part of a cosmic mandala, unfolding according to divine geometry. Your choices send ripples through this mandala, reshaping the whole. You are both fractal and whole, fragment and totality. With this realization, responsibility deepens, not as burden, but as grace. You begin to honor your thoughts, your words, your presence. You move with care, speak with awareness, live with frequency, not out of fear, but out of reverence for the power you hold. You are no longer waiting for the world to change. You are changing the world by how you be. The crystalline realm is not somewhere else. It is here, now, a dimension nested within, the old vibrating just beyond the noise. Waiting, not to be discovered but to be remembered. A temple within your very being, shimmering with sacred symmetry, calling you back to origin. You were never merely human. You are a geometric soul, encoded in light. You are the prism through which the infinite bends into color, and now you are beginning to shine. When the old identity begins to dissolve, it does not vanish in silence. It unravels like smoke drifting from ancient fire, leaving behind the scent of something once believed to be truth. In the shift to higher consciousness, the self you thought, you were fades not into absence but into transparency. What remains is not a character or role, but essence, something that cannot be named, only felt, only known by presence. You are not the mask, not the memory, not even the mind. You are the awareness behind all stories, the witness before thought, the pulse before breath. Identity becomes a coat you take off under starlight, revealing the naked soul beneath, unburdened, luminous, infinite. The roles you played were necessary, but they were scaffolding, not structure. What remains now is beyond architecture. It is being. Essence does not seek approval. It does not bend to opinion. It is not concerned with comparison or legacy. It does not operate in conflict, for it knows no enemy. Essence simply is. It radiates in stillness. It moves when it must, speaks only when silence is full, acts from a place untouched by fear. And in this stillness, you meet yourself as you were before time took form. The mind, long in command, softens into its true position, as translator, not tyrant. Thought no longer claims authority. It becomes fluid, quiet, in service of something deeper. You do not need to think your way into truth. You need only become still enough to hear it. Insight arises from the void, clean and sudden, with the certainty of lightning through a clear sky. This is the realm where paradox becomes natural. You are both nothing and everything, formless and formed, a single frequency among infinite symphonies, yet also the entire orchestra. There is no longer a line between you and the world. The boundary melts. What you feel within reflects what you see without. Reality becomes your own echo, your own response, your own extension. In this dimension of essence, communication shifts. You begin to sense others not through appearance or speech, but through vibration. You read energy like light. You no longer judge. You discern. You no longer react. You recognize. Every being becomes a mirror, some reflecting wounds to be healed, others reflecting the divinity you forgot you contained. Every encounter becomes sacred, a transmission disguised as conversation. The body, once a source of attachment or shame, becomes temple, not worshipped for form, but honored for function. as a bridge between dimensions, as a vessel of frequency. You begin to listen to its signals as sacred messages, each sensation a whisper from deeper consciousness. Hunger, fatigue, tension. These are no longer flaws to fix, but frequencies to understand. Emotions, too, lose their hierarchy. There are no longer negative feelings, only energy moving. Grief is sacred, anger is sacred. They are not enemies to avoid, but gates to walk through, carriers of transformation when met with presence. The deeper you feel, the more space you create. And in that space, something ancient rises, a clarity untouched by mood, a love untouched by condition. This is not a love that clings or demands. It is a frequency that simply shines, does not come and go. It is not personal. It is the current beneath existence, the hum behind every breath. In this frequency, you no longer need to be loved. You are love. You no longer seek to be seen. You are the seeing. The need dissolves. The truth remains. You begin to feel time collapse, not disappear but dissolve into presence. The future becomes unnecessary to reach, for it flows from your current vibration. The past loses its grip, for it is no longer a definition, only a reference. What matters is the now, not the superficial present of ticking seconds, but the eternal present from which all things arise. Here, you are free. Here, you are infinite. Essence does not rush. It does not fear delay. It trusts the rhythm of becoming. It knows that what is yours vibrates to you. That manifestation is not accumulation, but alignment. You stop striving. You start allowing. You stop pushing. You start listening. And in this listening, the universe begins to speak more clearly. Synchronicities align, pathways open, and you begin to flow with a current that was always there, waiting for your resistance to fall away. This shift is not about self-improvement. It is about self-remembrance. You are not becoming something new. You are peeling away what is false. The deeper you go, the lighter you become. And the lighter you become, the more you return to essence. Here you no longer ask, who am I, but what am I? And even that question dissolves into stillness, until all that remains is this: pure presence, boundless light, infinite being. The shift is no longer conceptual. It lives in the breath, in the choices made beneath the noise, in the way the soul whispers louder than the world. The fifth dimension is not a place we visit. It is a reality we embody, layered into the fabric of every moment waiting to be claimed. It does not float above life, it infuses it. It brings the sacred into the mundane and lifts the ordinary into divine resonance. To live in 5D is not to escape the body, but to illuminate it. It is to become the bridge, spirit grounded in form, light translated into action. Your thoughts, when aligned with truth, no longer hover as potential. They crystallize, they breathe themselves into matter. Your vibration begins to sculpt the landscape around you, not in sudden miracles, but in constant harmonies, shifting the air you walk through, softening the edges of time. You begin to notice the new physics of your presence. When you enter a space, it changes. Your stillness carries structure. Your peace broadcasts farther than your voice. You no longer need to explain. You no longer need to prove. Your being is the proof. Your alignment speaks louder than ideas. The electromagnetic signature of your coherence teaches without words, heals without touch, transforms without demand. In this state, duality no longer drives you. You no longer react to polarity. Light and shadow exist without war. You see beyond, good and bad, beyond right and wrong, into the deeper geometry of becoming. You no longer resist contrast, you transmute it. You become the still point at the heart of every storm. You do not ascend by leaving the earth. You ascend by loving it more deeply. The fifth dimension does not mean perfection. It means presence. It means mastery of energy, not denial of emotion. Sadness may still visit, but it will not stay. Pain may arise, but it will not define. The energy of 5D moves in spirals, not lines. You will return to old patterns not as failure, but as opportunity, to see from a higher angle, to respond with greater grace. There is no end to expansion, only deeper embodiment. You begin to co-create from the quantum, not from effort. Manifestation becomes less about desire, more about vibration. You align, you receive, you release, you allow. Gratitude becomes currency, wonder becomes fuel. Your future arrives not by strategy, but by resonance. The most powerful thing you can do is become the version of yourself that already lives in that future, and let the field mirror you. Relationships shift. Some fall away, not as loss, but as completion. Others arrive with magnetic clarity. Soul recognition replaces surface attraction. You begin to gather with those who speak your inner language, who understand without translation, who amplify rather than drain. Community becomes less about numbers, more about frequency. You are drawn into circles where truth vibrates and silence is shared like breath. Service takes new shape. You no longer serve from martyrdom but from overflow. You no longer help to be needed. You serve because your light can no longer be contained. Your gift is not something you force. It is something you are. You do not wait to be chosen. You remember you came to choose. You are no longer a seeker. You are a transmitter. This transmission is subtle yet constant. Every word you speak, every thought you entertain, every moment you stay in coherence adds to the grid of light on earth. You are no longer working alone. You are part of a symphony, a great awakening that rises not in protest but in frequency, not in noise, but in clarity. The earth responds. The crystalline structures strengthen, the illusion thins, the veil lifts. And so, the task becomes simple. Stay awake, stay in love. Return to alignment again and again, not as discipline but as devotion. This is the true ascension, not of rising above but of dropping in, deep into the body, deep into now, deep into the sacred geometry of a moment lived fully, consciously, and from the soul. This is not the end of the shift. It is the beginning of embodiment. The fifth dimension is not a destination. It is a remembrance of what was always encoded in your being, that you are divine frequency, that you are architect of light, that you are the quantum point through which love becomes real. And now, you walk forward, not to arrive, but to radiate, not to escape, but to infuse. The shift is complete when you live it. The work is done when you become it. You are here. You are ready. You are the light the future has been waiting for. If this journey awakened something within you, if your heart stirred, if your soul recognized its echo, then like, share, and subscribe. Let this transmission ripple. Let this frequency rise. Let the new earth be born through every aligned breath.